listeners from Lakyn podcast. Merry Christmas, you guys. First of all, thank you so much for tuning in on Christmas if that's what you're doing currently. Please ignore my stuffiness. As you guys know, I have sinus problems, and this week it's just really hitting me. So bear with me. I will be a little bit breathless today. However, today we are doing probably an episode that is going to become one of my all-time favorite episodes. We are doing my yearly book wrap up. So I'm going to be going through every single book that I read in the year of 2024 today, share my thoughts with you guys, share what I rated it. I'm going to be giving you my top 5 books of the year, and I'm just so freaking excited. So let's get into it. Deep breath moment. Like I said, I'm very nasally today. At least half of my family has a cough at the moment, so I do sound different. And you're just gonna have to bear with me. I'm gonna kind of skip through some life updates a little bit. I'm gonna skip through the weekly report because we have a lot to talk about today. We have a lot of books to talk about. However, I did want to just give you guys a funny story so that you guys can learn from my mistakes. Basically, I mean, you guys know how excited I get about Sunny Angels. You know that there is nowhere in Springfield, Missouri that sell them. There's no authorized retailers here. And so whenever I am able to get my hands on them physically, I pounce on it. I pounce on the opportunity. So, my best friend Kennedy, her little sister knows how much I love them. Okay, she watches my TikToks. She knows that I'm obsessed with these things. She was at the mall the other day and she sends me this video of a bunch of Sunny Angels inside of the store. And I'm freaking out. I slam my phone down. I'm like, no way. No freaking way. There are Sunny Angels in the mall right now. I immediately call her and I have her pick up a few for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So I go over to her house that night to open them, and I'm like thinking in my mind, like, oh no, like, what if they're fake? Because I didn't even think to check the app to see if it was an authorized retailer or not, because you can check on the Sunny Angels app. You can look up your state and your city and see if there are any authorized retailers near you. And I did not even do that because I was so frazzled in the moment. I also, mind you, was like a glass of wine in whenever she did call me. And so I immediately was just like, yes, buy me some. I'll come over in like an hour or two. So I get to their house and I look at the boxes and I'm like, my first indication that they were fake is that they were not wrapped in the plastic wrap. They were just like taped shut. And I'm like, oh God. And then I look closer at the box and instead of saying Sunny Angel on the front, it says like Squanny Angel. Like it's like SQNNY instead of SONNY. And I'm like, great. Yeah, okay. These are fake. And then as if we didn't already know by now, I opened them up and their heads are detached from their body in the package, which normally when you get them, they have their heads on. Because if you didn't know this about Sunny Angels, their heads pop off. Don't know why. Don't ask me. Maybe it's just the way they're made. But these ones came with their heads off. And normally the actual Sunny Angel brand, they will come with their heads on. So I have a few new Sunny Angels that are fake. I'm not going to lie. They look pretty real. There are noticeable differences. The material is a little bit cheaper feeling. They're a little bit less heavy than the real ones, but they're okay. I have a dinosaur next to my carrot on my bed over here, and it's pretty cute, but anyways, that was just a fun little story. You guys are listening to this on Christmas. I'm recording this on Christmas Eve. I'm currently marinating a self-tan because I like to look my best on Christmas. And I just did my hair, gave myself a little blowout. My microphone just cut out, so that's really awesome. But luckily I caught it this time instead of it just going and not recording this entire time. So thank you, Jesus. Merry Christmas. I have like so much mucus accumulating in my throat. Sorry if that grosses you out. I probably should have gave you a trigger warning beforehand, but you know me, I always forget to do that. So, what was I saying? We have Christmas Eve service today at 3, and then right after we're going to get pizza for dinner. And then what are we doing after that? And then after that, me, my sister, my sister's boyfriend, and then my brother and my sister-in-law are all gonna do this like Christmas D&D campaign tonight, which I'm excited for, which if you don't know what D&D is, it's Dungeons and Dragons. I know we are nerds. Get over it. It's so fun and immersive and I love fantasy books, so why not put myself into a real life fantasy? But we're doing a Christmas themed one. So all of our characters are have like a little like Christmas quirks and stuff. But I'm excited for that. And then tomorrow morning we get to wake up, and I guess it's basically today when you're watching this. I'll have already opened my gifts, but I can't even lie to you guys. I love opening gifts. I'm so materialistic. You guys know this by now, but I also just love I really truly do love spending so much time with my family over the holidays. It is so warm and welcoming, and I always feel instantly happier whenever everybody is around and everyone's gathered together. And I hopefully that's like a universal experience, but I just truly 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 love being with my family. I love doing the Christmas traditions. Like last night we built gingerbread houses and it was so much fun. um we watched Christmas movies, we baked Christmas cookies yesterday and decorated them with my nephews, and like it's even more magical, especially now that my first nephew is 3.5, so he's able to immerse himself into these traditions and actually know what's happening, and he's comprehending and he's learning and he's laughing with us and he's decorating with us, he's building the gingerbread houses with us. It's just so special to see him grow up and experience the joy of Christmas for the first time. Anyways, I'm so excited to watch them open their gifts in the morning. I just cannot wait. Don't worry, you guys. I took care of Toby. He did get some Christmas presents. He got a new little like stimulating cat toy that hangs from my doorknob, and he can like mess around with it. It's on like sort of a bungee cord so that whenever he claws at it, it like flies back up. It's a bird. It's really cute. I got him a couple little toys that just have catnip in the middle, and then I got him a party box, like a huge box of his favorite treats, which are like the lickable treats. Like it's like a little tube and you squeeze the paste out of it. He loves those. But, anyways, you guys, let's get into this episode. I don't think I have any other life updates. Actually, that was a lie. My friends and I did our yearly recap the other night on last Friday night, and we went to George's house and we all made our own Christmas cocktail. So I made jingle juice, which is essentially jungle juice but just add like cranberry juice. That was good. Emma made us like a mint cranberry mule, which was incredible. Georgia made these shots that were like white chocolate, I want to say like peppermint. I'm not sure what all she put in them, but they were so good. And then can't remember what else we had, but we went through our recaps, which they're never serious. They're always funny. We always just like do like the highlights of our year and the craziest things that happened to us. So that was exciting. We got to do that. And what else have I done this past week that's Christmassy? I'm trying to think. Like, hello? Yeah, I don't know, you guys. I honestly have just been spending a lot of time with family. But let's get into this. I forgot. I did my Christmas nails. They are Olive and June, just like red velvet vibe. I think they're called Obsessed. I think they're a Target exclusive. They are this beautiful red velvet. These are actually one of my favorite pairs. I often reuse these, but I just thought they were perfect for Christmas. I also braved the mall yesterday and Target to get last minute Christmas gifts. I told you guys I was gonna have to do that. It was not fun. I also got an oil change yesterday, which was not very festive, but at least me and my sister and my mom all did it at the same time, so like it was fine. I wonder if you guys can even understand what I'm saying today. I feel like all my words are just running together because I'm so nasally and so I can't like pronunciate correctly. I'm gonna try my best to really sit here and pronounce my words and really draw out the. Okay. Anyways, let's get started. First, we are going to be using my Fable app a lot today because they have like the analytics, they have my reader summary, they have my goal on here, they have my average rating, all that good stuff. So let's just get started. On Fable, the reason I love this app so much is because it gives you just like a little reader summary of like, okay, here's what you like to read, and it's just very niche. It kind of reminds me of the Spotify curated playlists that are like pink glitter gel pen, pink pony club, that type of stuff. So this is my reader summary for the year of 2024. Secret Keeper. With your penchant for hidden depths and complex romances tangled in mystery, I'm tempted to hide my bookshelf from you, lest you unravel all my secrets. Huh. Okay, cute. So yeah, that honestly makes sense because I feel like I've read a lot of fantasy this year. I've read a lot. I went on like a thriller kick where I was reading a bunch of Frida McFadden books, so that definitely makes sense. And then I just finished Daisy Hates last night, and that one is very like suspenseful. There is a little bit of like thrill to it as well as romance. I feel like it's almost more suspenseful than it is romance plot sometimes. Anyways, all right. You guys know that my 2024 goal was 50 books. Now, I don't know how much I'll get done by the end of the year, which is like a week away, but I made it to 43 books, which is pretty good, I will say. Last year I read 30 books, so I did go up quite a bit. I'm super proud of myself. I tried to hit that 50 goal, but when it comes down to it, it came to a point where I was like trying to read for numbers instead of enjoyment, and I really just wanted to stop and slow down, especially this time of the year. It gets so busy around Christmas and the holidays. I did not want to rush myself into trying to meet that goal. So we made it to 43 out of 50 books, which I think is pretty good. My best streak was 17 days. I read 17 days in a row. That was my best streak. My average rating was 3.9 stars, which I think is pretty good, honestly. It could be worse. 3.9 is pretty good. I was hoping for a 4, but like we don't always get what we want, you know? And it's hard when you read as many books as I do and as much as like other people. I'm not saying I read a lot, but I mean, there's so many people I know who read way more books than I do, but I feel like that's a great reading rating for reading 43 books. So, um, let's get into most read genres. Genres. My number one genre of the year was obviously romance. That could have been predicted. Now, whenever I'm going over these genres, keep in mind that some of them overlap. So, like it says romance 35 books and then fantasy 20 books, some of those overlap, okay? Because the app doesn't really recognize that romance and fantasy can go together. I read 35 romance books this year, 20 fantasy books, and 20 of those were probably fantasy, the romance ones. Young adult, 18 books. Wow, that's kind of crazy. Young adult? Huh. Because I really feel like I grew out of young adult this year. Sports, 11 books, and true crime, 7 books. Nice. Okay. And I will say one of my reading goals this year, which was to branch out and try to read a new genre. I used to not really be into thriller, and I read 7 thriller books this year. So that's pretty impressive for me. Um, Okay, most read authors. Sarah J. Maas at number one slot. Obviously, I read 9 books by her, the entirety of Throne of Glass series. Plus, I read A Court of Silver Flames because that was one that I DNF'd a while ago, and I just couldn't get through it. And then I finished it, and it ended up being my favorite out of the Akatar series. Elsie Silver, I read 6 of her books. That checks out. I do love myself a cowboy romance. Frida McFadden coming in third place. I read 6 of her books, which is so crazy to me. Like I did not expect that at all. But that's what's fun about this. Chloe Walsh, she did the Boys of Tommen series. I read 4 of her books. That makes sense. Elle Kennedy, I read 2 of her books. Jessa Hastings, 2 of her books. Lauren Roberts, 2 of her books. So those are just my top authors. There were plenty of other authors this year, but those were the top ones. Okay. I also just wanted to highlight that I joined the a book club this year, which is the ladies in my office, and I got to read 2 books with them. We read Puck and Prejudice and One Dark Window, and that was super fun. I'm so glad I got to do that with them, and I'm looking forward to reading more books with them. Um, okay, should we just like get started? I'm so excited. We're gonna go to my finished in 2024 folder, and we're just gonna go through all the books that I read this year. Okay, starting off strong in January, I read 4 books in January. It started off with The Goal by Elle Kennedy, which is part of the Off Campus Hockey series. I rated this a 3 star. I don't remember much from it, if I'm going to be honest, but I do remember that the end of 2023, I was kind of making my way through the Off Campus series, and they were just quick, easy hockey reads with romance. I do love that series a lot. I think it's a super fun read. But nothing crazy, nothing stuck out to me. The Goal, I can't even remember which couple that is from the series, you know what I mean? Okay, Powerless by Lauren Roberts was the second book I read this year. That makes sense. I remember reading this and I thoroughly enjoyed it. However, and here's the thing, I need you guys to know that I rated this a 4 star before a bunch of her controversy of her like copying other authors. I'm gonna be honest though, when I read it, I loved it. I really did. I think some of the writing was kind of um how do you say it, beginner, but that makes sense because it was her first published book ever. She has been under some fire for taking ideas and themes from the Hunger Games and the Red Queen series by what's her name? Jessica, is it Jessica? No, Victoria Aveyard, which I have read the Red Queen series. I read it years and years ago when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, and I really enjoyed that series. I also obviously read the Hunger Games series. Powerless does have several themes that maybe went a little too far from those books, but I overall did enjoy Powerless, probably because I enjoyed those books so much. So I just want to put that out there. Rated that a 4. Okay, The Legacy by Elle Kennedy. This is the last book in the Off Campus series, and it's kind of one of those books where it's just giving you guys like a year in the life from the couples from the original series. And so it's like 4 novellas, and it goes through each couple and kind of how they're doing now. I'm gonna be honest, this book didn't have very great ratings, but I enjoyed it. It looks like I rated it a 5 star, which is crazy. Looking back on it, I probably would give it a lower rating just because nothing is really sticking out to me from this book now. Like it's been 11 months and I still don't think about it all the time like I do other books, but okay. I mean, here's what I think. If I rated a book a 5 star a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, I'm gonna let it stay at that rating because that means for me in that time it was a 5 star, and I'm just gonna keep that in that time like a time capsule. It belongs there. It deserves that rating for that time of my life and whatever I was going through. I'm gonna keep it that way. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, let me know. Here's where things started to get fun, okay? This is when I started to pick up some more mature books, some more, I mean, I don't know if I would say mature, I guess deeper books with some very sad real life things that are happening. I picked up Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh in January. And this book, it's labeled young adult, but I'm gonna be honest with you here. Trigger warning, there is abuse, there is, I almost want to say self-harm. I guess there's drug abuse, there's physical abuse, lots of things in these books that you need to be aware of. So just look up the trigger warnings before reading them. But this book, Binding 13, changed my life forever this year. I will never forget the feeling of reading these for the first time. I was intimidated at first by them because they are very long books and the font is very small. You guys know how I feel about small font. It scares me. However, these books are so worth it, and it makes you feel like you could read them forever. This book is, how long is this book? This book is about 600 pages, and there could still be more to it. You know what I mean? 600 pages of small font, and I could still read more about these characters, if that tells you anything. This book obviously was a 5 star, Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh, and then I jumped right into Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh, which I rated a 4 star, and this is in the month of February. Rated it a four star. I believe because I still loved it, but it didn't give me the feeling that the first one did. So in February, this was one of my good reading months. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. After Keeping 13, I read A Court of Silver Flames. I rated that a 4 star, but looking back, I honestly would bump it up to a 5 star because I still think about this book a lot. I think the reason at the time I rated it a 4 star is because it took me so long to finish, which is completely my fault. I think it's. Am I recording? Because I'm gonna lose my shit if I'm not recording. Okay, guys, we were recording. I'm sorry. I just have PTSD from all those times that it wasn't going, and it's just a terrifying thought. Anyways, I still think about A Court of Silver Flames to this day. Nesta is me and I am her, and I have such a soft spot for her. She is my favorite sister from the ACOTAR series, and her story is so uplifting, and I relate to her on such a deep level. I think, being an older sister, it's a complicated feeling. You know what? Never mind. I don't know what I'm saying. But, anyways, Nesta, I relate to you so much, and I love her story and her comeback story. And just, I relate to her so much how she was so depressed. She was so down in the dumps. She did not want anything to do with life, anything to do with her sisters or family or anything. She honestly, deep down, just wanted to die. She just wanted to be done. But then she found this passion and it brought her back to life. And I just love that so much. And I relate to her on that level so much. So, honestly, you guys, can I like bump that up to a 5? I just did. Wow. I wonder if that'll change up my rating. Review updated. Okay, that is a 5-star now. Now, in February, I also started the Magnolia Park series, and I just want to make a point here. Why did I start the Binding 13 series, the Magnolia Park series, and the Throne of Glass series all in February? I was ambitious. That is a lot to take in, and I don't know why I did that, but let's just keep going. Magnolia Parks, I enjoyed that book. I rated it a 4-star. The only reason I rated it one less than a 5-star is because I hated the toxicity of it. I hated the ending. I don't understand where Jessa Hastings is going with Magnolia and BJ's story, but I'm ready to find out because I just finished Daisy Hates last night. And there are 3 more books in this series so far. I'm not sure if the series is unfinished or not, but I we'll see where she takes it. If you don't like Gossip Girl, if you don't like toxicity, if you don't like imperfectly written characters, don't read the Magnolia Park series. It's not for you because all of Jessa Hastings' characters are flawed, which I do love. Don't get me wrong. I love when people write about the real raw things and problems that humans have, okay? I hate when it's perfect and sugar-coated and curated. This series is not. But the toxicity in this one was just a little bit too much for me, and some of the characters annoyed me. Okay, then in February, we kicked it off with the Throne of Glass series. I started reading The Assassin's Blade, okay? And I chose to start with The Assassin's Blade because after much research and looking into what people chose, I personally will only be interested in a story if I am attached to the character. And so for me, what was needed before going into the rest of Throne of Glass was getting to know Selena Sardathian and getting to know who she was as a person and why she was where she was in the beginning of the Throne of Glass book. So that is why I read Assassin's Blade first. I understand not everyone agrees with me or does it that way, but for me personally, that's what was best for me going into this series. In February, I read Throne of Glass. I rated it a 4-star. You guys know how I feel about that. Going into March, I just kept reading. I read Crown of Midnight and I rated that a 5-star, which is kind of crazy. I feel like not a lot of people like that book. Oh, Toby's playing with his toy. I thoroughly enjoyed Crown of Midnight. The ending was just really, I mean, if you know, you know, the ending really got me. I fell to my knees. Um, Guys, go read Throne of Glass. If you haven't learned from me already, go read it. I also read The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee, and to be honest, looking back on this, I only rated it a 4-star because I read it in a day, and it was a good story and it was fast paced, but it really wasn't that great of a book, in my opinion, and the smut was a little bit too much for me. Then in March, I also read Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. That was a 5-star. I read Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. That was a 5-star. You guys already know that's my favorite series of all time. So that makes March was 3 books. And then heading into April, which was Queen of Shadows, when we started Queen of Shadows. April, we read 1, 2, 3 books. I read Queen of Shadows, and then I hopped right back into the Boys of Tommen series again and read Saving Six, which is Joey and Aoife's story, and I read Redeeming Six. Both of those got a 5-star for me. I honestly think I enjoyed Joey and Aoife's stories more than I enjoyed Johnny and Shannon's, and I think just because Joey's story is so powerful and I really related to Aoife a lot. I found myself in her. And like I said, when I'm reading, I'm very character driven. If I don't relate to the characters, I'm not interested in the story or the plot. Okay, April, moving on to May. May is when I did the Throne of Glass tandem read. So we went into Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms. I read them both at the same time. I kind of wish I read them, looking back, I wish I read them as separate reads because I feel like they are on their own. They're their own books, and I feel like they need to be read apart. And I will die on this hill now. If I ever do a reread of Throne of Glass, which I will probably next year, I will be reading these books separately. Okay. Tower of Dawn, I rated a 4 star. Empire of Storms, I rated a 4 star. It was great, but I think the tandem read impacted my rating on them. I think if I read them separately, they both would have been 5 stars. I'm not even gonna lie to you. So May, we read 1, 2, 3, 4 books. And then right after tandem read, I went into Kingdom of Ash, which is the finale to the Throne of Glass series. You guys already know how I feel about this. Great, one of the greatest books of all time, in my opinion. Beautiful ending to the story. I have so much love for this series, and it was a bittersweet ending. Kingdom of Ash rated a 5 star, of course. And then just to kind of get my mind off how heartbroken I was from finishing that series, because what do you even do after you finish Throne of Glass? I don't know. I went right into Wild Love by Elsie Silver, which is one of her new series. I believe she calls it the Rose Hill series. Yes, Rose Hill series. It's just a cowboy romance, single dad trope. I really enjoyed it. Honestly, I rated a 5 star. I read it in like 24 hours. It was a wonderful story. I found myself a lot in the main female character. But I also just really enjoyed Ford, which is the male main character. He was so perfect and so patient with her and so honest and raw. And he had a daughter, which I don't know why, but I love the single dad trope when they have a kid. It just like melts my heart because I love working with kids and I just love kids. And so whenever the main character is able to like really bond with the child, it just like touches me in a way. Then we move on to June. I only read one book in June. This was a bad time. I remember being in a huge reading slump. I read Flawless by Elsie Silver, rated it a 3 star. Honestly, nothing memorable about that book. I kind of just didn't care for it that much. Looking back, I might have rated it a 2. Uh, in July, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. Good job, Lakyn. This was Reckless by Lauren Roberts, had just come out. I rated it a 3 star. Kind of bored. It was a little bit boring. It wasn't the greatest sequel to Powerless. However, I think the third one will be better, which is called Fearless, and I believe it's coming out next year. Then I read Heartless by Elsie Silver. This was Willa and what was his name? Willa and Grant? Willa Cade. Willa and Cade. Correct? I don't know. That was their story. Really enjoyed their story. I read Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney. This kind of set me off into a thriller vibe. Alice Feeney, I rated that 3 stars. Then while I was in New York, I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This book changed my life. It reminded me of why I love to read. It was everything I could have imagined in a book: a touch of magic, romance, longing, family, all of the above wrapped in a neat little bow. 5 star. Love The 7-Year Slip. If you haven't read it yet, you need to read it. Then I read Powerless by Elsie Silver, which was, oh gosh, what was it? Salone and Jasper's story. Love them so much. I rated that a 4 star. Then I read Reckless by Elsie Silver. That was a 4 star. And then I read, oh, we're into August now. Okay, August, I read 1, 2, 3, 4 books. Reckless was one of them. Then I read Heartless Hunter by Kristen Kikarelli. I don't know how to say her last name. I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong. This one was a romantasy about a witch, but nobody knows she's a witch, and it's like a romance between a witch and witch hunter. You know what I'm saying? So that was fun. That was exciting. I did enjoy it. I rated it a 3 star. However, I'm not like dying to know what happens in the second book, but when the second book comes out, I probably will read it. Then we get to one of my worst reads of the year, which is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This one is just like vampires, and for some reason, I just can't get into vampires in a book. Don't get me wrong, I love the Vampire Diaries, I love that series, but for some reason, this book was just a miss for me. I don't know why, because it was really hyped up by a lot of my friends, but it just wasn't it for me, and that's okay. It's not for me, but it's for you guys, and that is okay. However, I could not relate to the characters at all. I was not interested in their story. I was not interested in the plot or their backstory or their futures or anything. So sadly, that was a two for me. Next, we get into Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This one I rated a 5 star. It was a beautiful romance. This was my first Abby Jimenez book, and I loved the way that she touched on anxiety and OCD, and I love how she brings mental health to a light and how she writes about it in such a caring way. It's like she took good care of it, you know, she took good care of the topic, and I really appreciate that. Moving on to September, I read one, two, three, four books in September. I read Wild Eyes, which is the Rose Hill series, number 2 by Elsie Silver. I rated it a 3 star. It was okay. I enjoyed the story. It got better towards the end, but some of the things were a bit too cringy for me. September is when I read the Housemaid trilogy by Frida McFadden. The Housemaid I rated a 5 star. I thought it was amazing. I really enjoyed the first one a lot. Lots of twists and turns. This set me into a thriller spiral. The Housemaid's Secret, which is the second one, I rated a 3 star. Still pretty good, not as good as the first one. The Housemaid is Watching, which is the third one, I gave it a 2. It honestly was so bad. If you hate the miscommunication trope as much as I do not read this book. They could have solved so many problems by just communicating with each other and telling each other the truth and being honest with each other. And I hate when they don't do that. So honestly, this book was more frustrating than it was enjoyable. I rated that a 2 star. The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. This was in October. This is the start of October. I rated this a 2.5. It was fine. I didn't expect the ending, which is why I gave it a 2.5, but whatever. After that, I read The Housemaid's Wedding, which is a short story it's like a spin-off of the Housemaid trilogy. I did not rate this because it's just a short novella. It's a cute little glimpse into Millie and Enzo's life after everything that happened to them. It was fine. Oh, I forgot to mention, The Boyfriend is the only book that I read in October, which is disappointing because I love October and I wish I read more in that month. But it was my birthday. I was a busy gal. That was probably the busiest month of my entire year, so we're forgiven. November, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. And that started with The Housemaid's Wedding. And then we got into Puck and Prejudice. You guys already know I rated that a 2 star. It was fun to read with my girls, but like, no, never again. Then I read Never Lie by Frida McFadden. I rated this a 3.5, but I can't even lie to you. I do not remember this book. What was this book? Okay, anyways, moving on. I read Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I rated it a 2.5, but honestly, looking back, I might go back and rate this a 3 because I thought about it quite a bit afterwards, and I really did I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the plot. The ending was a bit rushed. I think that's why I rated it a 2.5 to begin with. However, I do think it deserves a 3 because I thought about it for about a month after I finished. Okay. Lastly, for November, I read Consider Me by Becca Mack. This is a hockey romance. I really enjoyed it. I rated it a 3.5. I think it was a great story because you get to learn so much about the characters and their flaws and how their flaws impact each other and impact their relationship. However, it was a bit too long for me to be a hockey romance. I was just like, why are we still going after 500 pages, you know? So that knocked off a star or two. Now, then we got to Metal Slinger, which you guys know I just finished this one a couple weeks ago. This is a 5 star read. It is one of my top reads of the year. Then I read One Dark Window with the book club. I rated it a 3.5. I enjoyed it. However, my mind was occupied by Metal Slinger and other books. I just did not really care for it that much. Then I read Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison as a cute little Christmas read. I rated this a 4 star for what it is, a cute little Christmas read. And then we just finished the last book of the year. Well, maybe. I might end up reading another book before the year is over, but we'll see. I read Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. Now, this book, trigger warnings, her brother, her brother, Julian, is a crime lord and he steals these expensive, crazy, famous works of art. So there is a lot of violence. There are trigger warning mentions of sexual assault. There are lots of guns in this book. And it's crazy because you would never think by the cover of it, which is just Daisy's legs in a cute pair of high heel shoes hanging out of a window. Like, you would never think that's what this book entails, but there is lots of violence, a little bit of gore, and short mentions of sexual harassment. However, Daisy and Christian's story I hold very near and dear to my heart, and this was a 4 star read. I cannot wait to see where their story goes. So those were the 43 books I read in 2024. Let's see if my average rating went up since I updated that. Did it go up? Nope, we're still at 3.9. If I do end up reading another book this year, it will probably be Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, which is the 3rd book in the Magnolia Park series. Basically, the first 2 books in the series, which are Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates, they take place during the same time, okay? And then you move on to Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home and Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. And those 2 second books also happen at the same time, but they happen after the first 2 books, if that makes sense. Okay, now that we're finished talking about those, I did want to briefly show you guys my top 5 reads of the year. I did have quite a few 5 star reads this year. I want to say I had like 7 or 8 maybe. Well, maybe we should go back and count that because now I'm curious. Looking back, 7 or 8 out of 43 is not a lot. Let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 5 star reads this year, you guys. That's awesome. And I only had 2 2 stars. I had 0 1 stars. So that is a good reading year. It was a great reading year, honestly. I will say top series of the year is obviously Throne of Glass. You guys know how I feel about Throne of Glass. I have 2 tattoos dedicated to it. I have Aylin's sword on my thigh, and then I have hers was not a story of darkness, which is a quote from, I think it's mentioned in a lot of books actually, but from Kingdom of Ash, hers was not a story of darkness. That quote obviously sticks out to me a lot because I struggle with depression and anxiety, and so a lot of times it's easy for me to think that my story is a little dark, but it's not. My story is a story of light and love and happiness. But anyways, Throne of Glass was my top series of the year. I will say my second top series of the year is definitely the Boys of Tommen series, which is the Binding 13, Keeping 13, all that jazz. I thoroughly enjoyed that series as well. I hit a lot of long series this year, which is crazy. I did a lot of experimenting this year. It was just a fun reading year, and I really got close with so many girls on Bookstagram, and I met so many friends online just through the book community, and it's been such a great year for reading and for the book community. I've been able to I've had so many great opportunities and made so many friendships just from books alone and Instagram, and it's just crazy how that's a possibility. But I just want to do a special shout out to Juliana and Sydney. Those are my 2 best book friends, and I just like enjoy my chats with them so much. They have helped me through things. They have constantly giving me reassurance and hope and praise and love, and they are such a light in my life, and I cannot wait to hug them one day in real life. And you guys know this, but just the connections I make online are so special to me because it's easy online to find a curated niche group of people who have the exact same interests as you, and I just am forever thankful for it. But anyways, that's my spiel about online friends. My top 5 books of the year. Not in any particular order because I don't know if I could ever order these books. First one, Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This one, definitely one of my favorites from the series. It was so powerful. A lot happened in this book. It was very empowering. You know, you just read the series. I'm not going to give any spoilers. This is a spoiler-free episode. Um, Secondly, we have Kingdom of Ash. I mean, self-explanatory, bittersweet ending to the Throne of Glass series. This book is so, so important to me. It's where my tattoo came from. You guys know the deal. Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh, of course. This book changed my life. Johnny and Shannon have my heart forever. Number 4, Redeeming 6 by Chloe Walsh. This is Joey and Aoife's second book. I don't know why, but I feel like I enjoyed the second book more because it also gave us their happy ending. So that is that one. And then last but not least, Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. I was highly impressed with this book. This is, I believe she's a first-time author, I want to say, maybe, but I was honestly so shocked by how much I loved this book. It gave me every feeling I needed in a book all in one. I was in a huge slump beforehand. Sydney was like, "You've got to pick up this book." And I did, and it had every single feeling I had been searching for in a book ever. And it all wrapped in one. And it truly like it really took me by surprise. Definitely pick this one up if you definitely pick this one up if you guys haven't already. But thank you guys so much for watching. This was my yearly wrap up of reading. We did a good job this year. I can't decide if I'm going to keep the goal the same next year or if I'm going to shoot for the stars, but thank you guys for tuning in on Christmas. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. I'm excited for the new year. I'm excited for everything that's to come for us. Thank you so much again for just watching my episodes, listening, tuning in, supporting me, DMing me, talking to me, whatever. I love you all so much, and hopefully in the next year I'll be able to repay you in some way, but I love you guys. Merry Christmas. I hope you got everything you wanted. This has been a love letter from Lakyn. Bye guys.